welcome everyone. Good morning, good evening from wherever parts of the world where you are on. I'm Nethaji. I'm going to be the host for this the fireside chat today, and I'm going to be joined by two eminent speakers, Bala and Jinal. We'll get into the introduction shortly. But yeah, welcome Bala, welcome Jinal. Thanks for being here.
Hey Nethaji.
Hey, hi
Hey
Nethaji.
Hey
Jinal.
Bala, hey Bala, hey Jinal. All right, sounds good. Uh, Guys, thanks for joining in. And we're going to have a crucial conversation today in terms of people have been exploring about OKRs. And any OKR implementation typically starts with someone trying to get them addressed at the business strategy clear. But then it leaves out a gap in terms of what does it mean for the product strategy? What does it mean for product and engineering organizations? And that's precisely what we are going to address today. So before we get kick-started, a quick introduction in terms of who we are. Yeah, we are a startup offering the entire performance-oriented solution, covering strategy, covering process, covering people layers, covering performance layers. So we have a different set of wide varied insights that will help us to say that, okay, we have a conglomerate of different set of performance-oriented, which can address people, process, technology layer for a company. And then we have been addressed, we have been called out as leaders in many of the quadrants, including things called by Gartner, IDC. So that's where we are. And what do we offer? What do we get back to our customers? As I mentioned, our pillars stand across people performance and plan layer. So if you want a business strategy, we have OKRs, we have balanced scorecard, we have a custom strategy framework, even including safe and agile as well. We want to deal about the process performance. There is PPM project, portfolio project management. If you typically, in terms of, let's say, like a soft, in SDLC mode, or if you want to get into an agile mode, so that's going to be talk about it. And day-to-day operations we support in terms of task management. And these things are going to be supported by the people layer. And this is where we have performance management solutions, goals in place, and all of them has been supported by enablers in terms of employee engagement solutions. So that's where we are. In terms of, while I head the product organization within Profit, and so Jinal is also Jinal is an engineering leader from Joveo, and Joveo is also a customer of Profit, and that has been practicing OKRs for both product and engineering. And Bala is a senior product leader at SolarWinds. And obviously, we really want to have an external perspective as well. And that's why we invited Bala, who is currently has been exploring OKRs and at various levels. And he is going to share his outside in perspective of how to get in OKRs. And with these two people together, definitely we really want to cover the basis of product and engineering and how to make these two talk to each other using OKRs. And at the end of this 45th minute, we really want to ensure that you have hands-full insights in terms of how they started and how they implemented. And most importantly, we're also going to see a demo in terms of how to really put all those things that are literally the books of John Doerr's talks about how to put that into action more precisely, contextualized for product and engineering organization. All right, so that's the context for today. And Bala and Jinal once again. Probably what I do is let me start with some quick questions for you to start with in terms of, let's say, let me start with Jinal first. Being an OKR practitioner already, and especially for his organization where both OKR, where both product and engineering organizations use it. So think of yourself, right? When wherein you're gonna be a Marvel hero, and then you got a superpower wherein your protagonist is gonna be an OKR. So your OKR is going to be a superhero for you. And considering that you and OKR together, and OKR is going to be your superhero, both of you the Marvel characters right now. And so think of yourself and then select what superpower we will be having on. With OKRs in place, what will you be able to visualize out of your existing organization?
Yeah, that's a good way to start, Nethaji. So if OKR is a superhero, right? First of all, it is a superhero. We don't need to assume, right? Whoever has, spent enough times with OKR, it actually is a superhero. But in a way, right, anyone they are not going to realize its impact that fast. And already it's proven, right? Many companies like, even Intel, Google started when it was just 1 year old. So it is having a true power, right? But then it will take time, right? So if I say the power of OKRs, what I've seen in past few years, right? Using that one, first thing is clarity and the alignment, what it will bring. Because challenge is not having too many ideas. That's what I've seen. Too many things to do in any organizations, right? And there are too many ideas comes. But the challenge is how fast you are executing, how you are shaping your idea, right? To the form that your customers are agree to pay. Everyone feels excited, right? Because this is something, right? We want to go after. So that's where the challenge is. And then when you start doing that, it's not possible alone. You need a team and then you start hiring people. And that's where your challenge becomes even bigger, harder. You hire everyone with the some goal. But then it's pretty tough that, after few months, few weeks, right? Everyone remembers why we are here. So many new things to do, the improved technologies, innovations, right? So that's where everyone working for the same goal, same thing, right? Clarity. That's where OKR brings the true picture in the any organizations or any project you are working on, right? So basically, why part will be pretty clear. What exactly we are after, why we are doing, even like junior most employee till the founder of a company, and that's where you see the multiple result. Like for an example, let's say 5 people are doing some pivot, some POCs, seems pretty fine, and then they think if we make it big, let's say hire 20 more people, will grow 4 times, 5 times from here on, right? That does not happen actually. Probably it can, introduce some more issues, alignment, consistencies. So
And it
that's
was
what the
like,
power. Yeah. Yeah.
I was about to say that it was like me hearing out a summary of what John Lewis calls about in his Measure What Matters, saying about the superpower, the facts that he talked about. Right. So it was resonating like, okay, man, I've been hearing out an AA summary of what you have, what people talk about, or what John Lewis have talked about. Okay, as superpowers. But thanks, Jinal, for that. I
Yeah.
think that's a good way to start with. Let me move the focus to Bala now. Bala, I know, I mean, you've been someone who has been, I mean, let's say, like, you've been listening to a lot of, I know, like, doing a lot of podcasts, been reading a lot of product management books, and this is one thing I would say, like, I mean, I'm also in being in the product management area. I know some of the product leaders that I follow in LinkedIn, always they also refer to the fact that, okay, they might not use a product like Profit.co, but they refer to the aspect that, yeah, OKR is going to be a guiding symbol in terms of helping them to define their concepts. So there is a lot of things over there. And when you start, definitely the theoretical aspects say that, okay, you can do X, Y, Z things. But if I have to say, okay, a kind of a myth busting moment, kind of, let's say, like you want to challenge a common OKR assumption, what that would be.
Okay, that's a good question, Nethaji. So when you say myth busting moment, I would call this as a misconception when anyone is implementing the OKR. The first and foremost, which I could recollect is uh, OKR is being an ambitious goal. It always consider that it must be achieved 100% for them to be successful. But in reality, OKR is designed to push the boundaries and encourage the team for the ambitious outcome. So achieving the 100% in counterintuitively, which leads to be the goals is too conservative. So in that sense, it should encourage the innovation over the perfection. And when it fosters a growth mindset when it is achieved partially. So the goals are not to be chased. However, the goals are met even partially. It's about the progress that has been learned over the period of time when we are practicing OKR and what is the learning which we have been inputting for the next iteration.
But I think that's one pretty good insight. Probably, I think this is where people also gets lost, and definitely in terms of where we want to kind of focus this towards, I think this gives a pretty good direction. So while we start with this, let me also bring out a quick poll on hearing out our audience pulse as well. Really want to understand from their point of view, wherein like what is their kind of, if they have to call out their relationship status with OKRs, what that it is going to be. So for people on the call, you will be seeing a quick panel wherein giving you options in terms of what you want to rate. Let me give a few seconds for people to vote on, and then let's go ahead. Maxwell, I see your hands on. I would request you to post a question either in the chat or in the Q&A section. So definitely we're going to have a dedicated Q&A towards the end. All right, great. Thanks for all your responses. Let's jump out to our very first segment. Let's start a kind of a typical story, right? Wherein we start with some introductions and wanting to see like what people know about OKRs. And this is the stage where people might want to try out something new. People might want to say like, okay, yeah, I heard about OKRs. Probably let me be open enough to try out something and see like, okay, if that is something good enough for me or not. So let me start with you, Bala, over here. So I know that, yeah, I mean, both of you share the a typical tech SaaS background, but a commonality between product and engineering, or in a way, you can also say it's a difference between product and engineering, right? In olden days, when there was SDLC, it is always going to be dev versus QA. But with all this new frameworks in place and with product companies around, it's gonna be like, okay, product versus engineering. So a typical statement is that product says now, but then engineering says later. So how often do you experience that? And what, according to you, where OKRs is going to kind of bridge this alignment?
Okay. So I would consider like the questions to reframe. So you are highlighting what is a misalignment within the product and engineering, as well as the other stakeholders, and why that misalignment is being there, and how OKR is bridging that misalignment. Okay, to address that, from product perspective, when the product needs to be serving the customer needs with the balance of market and business demands. So when I say balance of customers and market demand and business one, so it's often considered as what is a prioritization gap. So when we prioritize, it's for the customer's needs, specifically for the customer pain points, customer churning, or engagement, or the vitamins. And when it look at business need, it would be for new engagement or new opportunities win, or it is for new complaints and security aspects, and comes to technology. So that has to be balanced between all these three. And when we prioritize, we wish to take a trade-off between all these things. When we say like whether to have a churning customer or new adoption, so this prioritization will be not communicated clearly to the engineering or other stakeholders. That needs a lot of misalignment. When I say other stakeholder, including marketing, sales, and supports, for an example, when you are getting a new product of when the marketing need to highlight about the narratives of the value proposition of the features and capabilities that have been highlighted, there is always the gap that has been highlighted over in the prioritization framework. Okay, when we prioritize the new opportunities win with the customer churning, that highlighted, hey, this is a new opportunity, new revenue stream that needs to be highlighted. And that's how the features that has been taken up for this prioritization. And when it brings to the new market trends, for an example, hey, we are considering to including the AI insights to the products rather than focusing on tech stack and tech debt and other backlogs, technical backlogs. So that provides the clear instructions to the marketing and the engineering. Hey, we are positioning ourselves in the market trends where we are including the AI enabled features over in the product. So this instruction or clarity provides the gap between the misalignments between the product as well as the other teams, including engineering, marketing, and supports.
Sounds good, Bala. I mean, somewhere I see that this is a typical product management prioritization framework, right? I mean, it could be RISE, it could be any other framework that any organization uses. Just putting it back onto the OKR context, this is where literally we tie the, let's say the NSMs or the outcome metrics that we pick it up for every feature and then tie it out to a lagging indicator within an OKR and then tie the other things as part of an initiative that feeds on to driving those OKRs. But thanks, Paul. I think that has been a pretty good one. And with that, let me have a separate question for Jinal. Knowing that he has been living out OKRs for a good amount of time now, and also knowing that Joveo also started with the aspect saying that, okay, we had about OKRs and we want to implement it. And that's where all this journey started. And the most fundamental stuff that any organization that starts is that, okay, let's start with writing a good set of OKRs, adhering to the semantics or the way it is supposed to be, right? So this is all if you pick on any resources from the internet or from any books, this is all resources is going to direct on. So let's flip this out for a moment. So what is going to happen if you don't end up writing a good OKR? And why it is being called as a problematic one. So this is a common one that many of us kind of tend to fall on. So let's hear out from your practical experience why there should not be a bad OKRs within product engineering.
Okay. So first of all, bad OKRs, I think when you start with the OKRs, anyone starting with OKR, I would encourage you persist with that. There is nothing like good or bad. But when you talk about the bad OKRs, I would say two sides of extremes. One is you have just adopted OKR because XYZ company has succeeded. They are good, like, pretty successful by adapting the OKRs and all. So you're just setting the OKR, like, deliver these features by Q1s, or maybe do XYZ task by this deadline. So it is just like you are using another framework for your task tracking, and you are not considering impacts and output, the business outcome, what you want, right? Instead of that, you should be having like, my revenue will increase by X percentage, right? Or my adoption will grow by this, or maybe existing revenue from existing clients. So it should be some outcome driven, right? So that's the first thing. Second is, at times we become too ambitious, right? It should not depress as such. It should be just inspiring enough. Like, if I would say any objective you set, right, it should be enough to get you out of the bed in the morning, right? And then when you look at the OKR, you should be little scared, not much, but little scared. Will I be able to achieve this or not? It should not be as simple as at the same time, it should not be that much depressing aspirational one. Like, for an example, another example I came across, like they improve. We created one app, and then like startup is setting the goal that we will target 1 million downloads in the next 1 year, next 6 months, right? Or this many number of users should be using that. And even if that happens, actually it is not conveying the true business outcome, right? Instead of that, it should have been like retention of existing users or conversion from free users to the paid users, and those kind of OKRs. So yeah, don't just keep that as your motivational posters, right? Just because you have been told to, but relate it with your business outcome. Yeah.
And then thanks, Jinal. I think out of all the things that you mentioned, the TTP, trial to purchase metric, or the conversion ratio in terms of how much are free users getting onto paid users, that's, I think I have seen many of our other customers literally using that one area to be solved by OKRs more precisely. But thanks. I mean, I could summarize that this is where OKRs will kind of act as an early warning indicator system just to ensure that we're all sailing on the right path. Thanks, Jinal. And so while we have set the base, the next thing is about, okay, kind of scale it out and ensure we apply all the practices at work, ensure that the implementation is so good and powerful so that it's working beyond the theoretical aspects. It's going to work in real life, in solving the real life problems. So before I jump on to demo, I'm going to have two more questions for you here. So think of the scenario, right? Wherein I mean, even the first 3 months have been a learning curve for you, Jinal, wherein you've been trying to understand. We talked about things like how we're going to integrate with Jira, DevOps, kind of set of things. So those are some of the challenges that we have worked out in terms of getting it work. But let me start with Bala in this case, since that he has been exploring quite a lot, and maybe he can give in a pretty good insight from an outside perspective. So Bala, I know you've been a senior PM in your organization, and one of the challenges that you are trying to solve currently at the moment is about churn metrics, right? How do you ensure that the product adoption is better? How do wherein you have a need to ensure you maintain your net run rate, ultimately boiling down to the fact that there has to be a reduced churn. And that's a typical problem statement for any tech SaaS companies, for any product and engineering organization. So let's start with that problem statement for you. And if you have to call out, how will you be cracking this problem statement with OKRs? What will be your point of view?
Okay. So one of the example I would highlight, we have introduced the monitoring capabilities of SD-WAN monitoring of SD-WAN links and VPN tunnels that could potentially reduce the churn of our existing customer. To step back, so why we have been introducing this API-based SD-WAN monitoring? In the networking world, SD-WAN is already crossed the chasm in the sense many of the our customer has been adapted from MPLS to SD-WAN. So when we are providing the monitoring for the network, obviously it's a mandate to provide the SD-WAN network monitoring of them. And SD-WAN network vendors has been proliferated in the sense in the market, it's having a lot of vendors in the market. And to meet our customers' need, we need to provide for all the customers, all the vendors in that market, either it be Cisco, Palo Alto, Fortinet, Firewall, Fortinet, Silver Peak, Cisco Meraki, and other vendors. And again, when it comes to SD-WAN monitoring, specifically mainly it relates to SD-WAN edge devices, WAN uplink, and VPN tunnels. So monitoring these metrics will keep the uptime SLA compliance for the customers and the support volume tickets where it gets whenever the issues on the network. So providing a North Star metrics and the guardrail and the runway leading metrics along with the specific stages of how we are capturing these metrics as either the acquisition, engagement, and revenue. So these narratives provide the clarity of why we are monitoring SD-WAN and why we are monitoring the SD-WAN across the vendor and what is a specific need for uplinks and SD-WAN uplinks and WAN uplinks. For an example, for acquisition, we need to have all our customers to be using our solution to monitor their SD-WAN. So that's the purpose for having all the vendors support in the monitoring aspect. When you say engagement activation, there is SD-WAN edge devices in the sense customers branch has been like thousands and hundreds of branches. When it gets onboarded, we should have a proper time to value for the customers to get that monitoring onboarded. So that provides the discovery flow functionality that has been given. And for engagement, when we are monitoring the branch networks of a customer environment, it shouldn't have a jitter packet loss and latency for the edge devices so that they could be able to monitor effectively. So when I highlight when the narratives is clearly structured with all the metrics and KPIs indicators which the customer environments needs to be monitored in our environment. When it is structured with the metrics and KPI along with the OKR, that leads to the features and capabilities which is built for the SD-WAN, which is outcome based, that ultimately address the needs for our customers and reduce the churn of our customer base.
I think, in other words, I'm also seeing a question being posted in the chat window, wherein someone has been a question in terms of how KPIs are being compared with with OKRs. I think your explanation kind of resonates with that, wherein all the be it the engagement metrics or whatsoever metrics that we've been talking about. So that precisely needs to be kind of coined as a KPI, which in turn needs to tie back to OKRs to kind of solve this problem.
Exactly. So the practice over here is to provide a clear narrative of the metrics and KPI, which serves the purpose of what is the features that has been monitoring that directly connects to the OKR.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bala. So the last question before our demo for now. So this is for you, Jinal. Wherein I know being an engineering leader, I know you get the outcome focused OKRs or the features that you want to implement. Everything is going to get cascade from product team. But while product team is so focused on the features to be implemented or the themes to be implemented, what is really missing out from their plan is that how, as an engineering leader, how do we really account for that could be a tech depths, tech spikes, or there needs to be some research time, there could be some system constraints or tech complexity that you need to consider for. So how do you fit in your OKRs just to ensure that while at the time you've been talking about all the outcomes that is being said by the product team in terms of, yeah, these are the key features, these are the outcome impact that I'm talking about, but at the same time, you also need to balance it out the way how you need to seamlessly execute. Yeah, your ways, please.
I think that's a common scenario, right? Any engineering team, right? They will be having like tech debts or some scalability issues, maybe phasing out legacy systems. And like in our organization, we have a kind of mandate that all the Jira tickets where we use Jira for all our tasks, right, has to be tied up with the OKRs. So otherwise it just flags it up. So and in such kind of scenarios, right, where some research is going on or technical complexity, I think two things. We won't break the framework as such. We will still create an OKR, but maybe we will compromise a bit in terms of outcome. For an example, let's say we want to feature like release particular feature, right? Instead of just like releasing features or looking at the adoption impact, probably we will just trim it down, completing certain prototypes, POCs, right? Or doing a feasibility analysis. For an example, let's say another could be maybe passing some performance tests or passing some benchmarks so that it will be more clear as we go along. And then probably we can set the encouraging or pretty aggressive kind of, OKRs. So that's what we will follow in all such kind of scenarios, Nethaji.
I think that's a pretty good recipe for handling the change management and ensuring that, okay, both product and engineering doesn't feel that implementation is not as a burden, but it's more of adapting slowly into the ways of working. Right? Okay, thank you so much, Gina. So what we're gonna do now is that we started with how Jinal and Bala started exploring OKRs and slowly how this got kind of implemented at work. And we're going to see a quick example in terms of a demo covering out both these aspects. So let me start with this, right? I mean, we're going to assume we are talking about an example of a learning platform, be it LinkedIn, Duolingo, Coursera, whatsoever maybe. So let's assume that we've been talking about one such company, which they have been starting up with defining their corporate OKRs. Let's say revolutionize adaptive learning for driving user adoption. And there are three set of next level key results: delivering improved learning outcomes, increasing my average daily average users, and building the best learning experience for our leaders. for our readers, and then kind of that is getting assigned or cascaded to the product leadership in terms of what kind of an impact that we are going to make as part of driving these OKRs for the business strategy. Now, the key thing is that we do not really want business strategy and the product strategy to be running up in silos. We really need to see a seamless transition between these two. Now, if an organization starts using out OKRs between both business strategy, not just business strategy, but also for the product strategy, the way it is going to kind of run down is that in a parallel world, out of all these OKRs are all getting defined, there is also a product world, right, wherein the PMs are busy exploring, doing research in terms of what I can do to make my product even more better. So you'll be seeing a backlog of epics over here, but having these OKRs defined at the top level layer is going to help me with three things. Number one, let's say if I want to increase the certifications to be issued, this is going to help me identify out of all the different capabilities that I'm defining out on, probably these are the ones that I need to focus on, which will help me to increase these certifications. The same way, I will also be able to explore new additional capabilities, wherein if I want to increase the CSAT of my learners or readers, I might need to introduce few more additional capabilities in the application. And then number three, beyond these things that gets aligned, I might be still having a bunch of other features. Probably I might not want to prioritize for this current quarterly sprint, and probably it's something that I need to pick it up for later, depending upon the strategy where it takes me out, right? This is how we really need to kind of get that into action. And from a practical perspective, what does it mean for us is that is where you see all those things, right? And then I have a building foundation, and then I have a theme, and then I'm talking about I have a bunch of learning contents that I need to deliver it on, which is going to get done across multiple different epics that we have, right? So this is what you see as part of a product management world, right? In parallel, you're going to see the business strategy world. It starts with saying that the same OKR that we talked about, revolutionizing adaptive learning for driving stuffs, the same set of corporate OKRs. This is the typical starting point wherein you say that, okay, these are the two things that I want to do it on. But the key is in ensuring how am I going to connect these two dots together without adding any additional burden for my product or engineering. And that's where precisely we call out a Jira integration capability, which means wherever your product execution sits on, be it Jira, be it DevOps, or be it product board, or even if you use ClickUp, something like that, whatsoever place that you have on, we enable that integration. All we gonna do is that, hey, probably like these are the different capabilities that I'm trying to do it on. And if I have to bring or make something to work, all I have to do is that I go in and I say, I have a bunch of OKRs that I can kind of link it out from this place, which is going to get effectively linked up over here. So at the moment, it is just a key result. But if you see down below, literally, these are the things that are getting integrated from Jira. So from a product manager perspective, these are the epics that I am responsible for. And all these things are getting aligned with the top level product strategy, which in turn is getting aligned with the top level business strategy as well. So in a single place, I'll be able to understand, okay, this is my product strategy wherein I want to build the best learning experience assigned to product engineering. And then these are all the different epics that are being worked out by the respective user, giving all different capabilities to get them tracked either by number of items or issues that you have in the epics, be it user stories or defects, or also in terms of the number of story points that you're trying to address over there. So that's one way you will be able to do that. And number two, in some organizations, probably like you will not talk about handling things at the epic level. You have a safe framework in place. So I might be having a theme level aspects in place, or I might be having an initiative level orchestration in place. So I really do not have to worry about bringing every step-by-step of let's say like user features. Instead, I can bring in the whole set of the top level theme itself, and that in turn brings in all the related Jira epics down for us. So we've been talking about improving course delivery. So if I go ahead and look at what is out there, then I'll be able to kind of look at what are the different epics that I want to link it out from Jira. And and the benefit of doing that is that I'll be able to understand as part of driving the CSAT of learners from 5 to 8.5 or what's the score it is. I have a bunch of features that I want to implement. I've been marching it around. So I see some slow traction to the value drop. So it is all going by the fact that I have a bunch of features that I want to do it on. The value drop is going to happen in Q2, Q3, later point of time. How am I going to ensure that I'm tying down my deliverables with the value drops that I'm bringing onto the product? So pretty much that's one single puzzle that we'll be able to solve by having your strategy both for business and product defined as OKRs, and then you connect them with your product execution layer, be it in any different system, and then have it as a single source of truth. And now that when you have all these things in place, you get a pretty warning, pretty good alarm and status saying that whether your initiatives progress are aligning with your outcomes or not. Right. So that's something Profit has got a pretty cool capability in terms of how you'll be able to bring both of these two things together. Now, with that, let's jump on to the last segment for today. So yeah, we implemented it. We are making it happening for the organization. Now, Jinal, from probably like it's time to kind of talk about some kind of a case study. So what it is to you, like to talk about before OKRs and after OKRs in your organization?
I would say no wasted effort. The first advantage, what I have seen, like, there used to be feature bloat, so many features we deliver, right? So many things we do. And then we see how much organization has grown, right? What's the impact on the revenue business outcome? So knowing goal is the one thing, right? Everyone knows the goal that happens, right? Everyone knows why we are working, for what we are working. But then actually, whatever they work, whatever outcome, whatever output they produce, right? Is it really moving the OKR, right? And if it is not, again, like we used to realign and then, find the gaps. So that's what the first, impact. Probably the metrics and specifics. I'll take just one example and then wind it up for the interest of time. Like, for example, let's say we thought of engineering supporting sales, like, sales is not happening, or maybe we need to increase it, right? So engineering will also help the major prospects, whatever deal is going on, salespeople to bridge the gap and what product is capable of, right? So then we say major prospects, right? What are the major prospects? Like, it should not just be some next 5 deals or next 5 conversion, right? Maybe we need to define maybe more than $100K revenue. And then also we need to see, like, just supporting is not a big deal. What if all the deals are dead, no conversion, right? So then we kind of improve that technically, there should not be any rejections. Not more than 3 rejections should come because of technical reasons. Or maybe we started having a technical pass rate as a matrix. Like, if the rejection is happening, but it's not because of technical reasons, then we will consider that technically passed, but maybe some other XYZ reason. So I think these are the examples, right, where we literally related engineering efforts with the business outcome.
Thanks, I think that's, obviously, like anything when we talk about from a practical implementation standpoint, definitely that's going to be a true value add-on for others to implement it as well. Bala, probably a last question to you. So with all your exploration so far, I know, like, even though you might not be using the tool at the moment, but what's the most significant business outcome that you have achieved in terms of OKR-driven product development?
Okay, let me provide you an example how we used to update the progress of OKR in our QBR, that is quarterly business review, wherein all the stakeholders, including product, customer success, solution engineering, marketing, and engineering leaders, used to provide the updates over the OKR. For an example, each and every stakeholders used to provide the progress and the key initiatives that is taken across the OKR, and what is learnings that has been done and what is achievement. This is how the QBR has been driven to provide the update on the OKR progress. Let me reframe this with a 5P framework, how effective the OKR has bring into to cover the wider aspect of the entire organization. So when I say 5P framework, it deals with progress, people, product, plan, and pipeline and plan. Progress. For an example, when we have a OKR, hey, we need to reduce the churn from 30 to 20, and we need to increase our AR from 9 million to 7 million, 9 million to 10 million, or we need to increase the customer adoption from 100 to 300. These are all the progress that has been upgraded, and even the scalability and performance progress that have been updated from engineering. So progress has been covered on the update over the OKR, the wide spectrum of OKR. And people, as I said, each and every stakeholders used to be providing the updates on each and every OKR. We could have a collaborative effort for across the stakeholders, including product, customer success, sales, and marketing. And when it comes to product, so what are the product initiatives? What are the epics or features that has been contributing for this business success or OKR? That has also been covered. And then next is on plans. So what is the things that has been learned, and what are the future plans that has been for the next quarterly release or anything which impact for the movement of the OKR. The final is pipeline. So these are all the progress that has been achieved, and this is on the pipeline which we are yet to accomplish on the next release. So what I am mentioning here is, with the OKR update from each and every team, we could able to achieve the entire spectrum of the business needs when it comes to the QBR.
Perfect. Thank you so much, Bala. I think that's a perfect landing punch, I would say. Be it whatsoever be the framework, right? When OKR is one just framework, be it whatsoever it is, the ultimate thing is that does it end up in delivering the business value or not? And I'm pretty glad to know that, yeah, when you've been utilizing OKRs to drive that nth value to impact your business. So that's really great. Thank you so much, Bala. And that one, just in the interest of time, right? Probably like one last thing as part of the Q&A, when we take a question that has been posted on chat. Probably, Jinal, I saw that you really wanted to take that question on. Do you want to address?
Which question? Is it about KPI or?
Yeah, that's KPI thing.
Yeah, I think Bala answered in one of the things.
Okay, fair enough. Okay, all right. Probably I pick on the second one. What practical ways to measure and track OKR progress in Jira while ensuring team buy-in and accountability?
Yeah. So I can take this up. So basically, I would say first thing is OKR is something like you are having separately, and then most of the companies will work on a Jira, right? Jira ticket. So I would say two steps. The first is your every OKR should be linked to the Jira. That's what we do, right? So that's where like any Jira you are working, right? It will just say OKRs are moving and it is tied up. And obviously before that, we will go through the thorough review of OKRs, how it is defined, whether it's feasible or not, and whether it's aspirational or not, right? So that's the one thing. And the second thing is like, check-ins, periodically check-ins, and then it's not be overhead as such. That's a pretty important thing. So otherwise it won't be adopted. Maybe teams will hit this like just one more process and then few things to follow. So that's where like you have to automate certain stuffs and see which like, again, Profit.co is having like once you integrate, once you link, right, any progress in the Jira or set of Jira tickets, right, the way it is progress, you will see the parent OKRs objectives getting progress. So I think that's where like you have to just do initial setup and then it will just go as usual with your Jira things.
Perfect. Thank you, Jinal. I think precisely the question aligned with the demo that we did as well. So yeah, people get the answer in terms of how we can solve that problem using such integrations. All right. Thanks for all those things. Just for people that are on the call today, we have two flashing offers. One in terms of getting yourself well versed with OKRs for product managers, and if you want to have a fundamental stuff, then there is an OKR program for foundational course as well. So these flash codes or QR codes will be shared with the listeners post this meeting as well. But that's something we are running it out as a quick offer for our upcoming batch on. And yeah, thank you so much, Bala and Jinal, for being here. It was a pleasure to host you. And for the audience, thanks for staying in. I apologize for the initial disruption that we had with respect to the audio and video. And we'll get the other questions answered. We'll share the Q&A shared out separately as part of the webinar recording.